One of the things I've noticed, we do work with quite a lot of trichology clinics, both in terms of hair loss surgery, but also in terms of non-surgical approaches, and also non-prescribing approaches as well. And one of the big things is having people book and then not turn up. So not just cancellations, but no shows. And we're going to come to a little bit how we dig into those kind of problems later on. But in terms of one of the main solutions for that, it actually ties well in with online booking. So I thought I'd put it here as a sort of a nice sort of flow to the webinar. And that is, of course, online payments, whether that's prepayments in full, in part, or whether that's just deposits and so on. Or indeed, if it's actually properly paying for the whole consultation after it's already been rendered. Lots of different options there. And one of the biggest reasons to do so is that if a person cancels, you may have spent quite a bit of money on merely being available for that appointment. First of all, you may be hiring a location, you may be hiring a room in another practice, or paying for your own premises. And of course, you're paying all sorts of things on top of that: electricity, other utilities. You're paying, if it's not you who's actually running the consultation, you're paying the staff, all sorts of things. And one of the easiest ways to recoup those losses is to cover them in the first place. So if you put a deposit in there that's proportional to how much it costs you to provide a service, then you'll find that at the very least, you wouldn't have lost anything. You'll at least break even. And I would say that one of the problems I had coming from a clinical background is that I really would not want the practitioner-client relationship to be transactional in nature. It's very awkward and not conducive to good practice if you are essentially treating someone and then holding your hand out for payment, for lack of a better description. So actually online booking and online payments linked to those, whether at the time of booking or afterwards, do reduce that transactional nature of the relationship, improve that rapport you've got there with the person, and of course collect the money in a timely and reasonable manner. And on top of that, what Medesk actually does is when that takes place, it actually generates an invoice and receipts and all that kind of thing. So you can send things right out to the client, or have them for your own records, whether that's to export to your accountant or whether that's just for you to have in Medesk yourself. And one of the other things I wanted to note about offering prepayments, one of the first things that people say to me is, if they're a little bit against the idea, they say, but if someone has to pay up front, won't that put them off? Well, actually, not necessarily, and often not, because when the weird thing about human psychology is that when someone sees that something is free, completely free of charge, there's no strings attached, they don't actually believe that service has any value. They think, well, if it must be free for a reason, free because it's essentially worthless. Now that's a common perception, despite what you may assume. And so even a small prepayment that's just enough to cover your overheads actually does increase the likelihood of a person to book. So it's well worth having in there. And of course, you may not want to put something up front, but even if you don't do that, there's no obligation to do so, of course. If it turns out that you experiment and it works out that your particular client base really doesn't like prepayments for some reason, then actually you can just give them a payment link afterwards. They can log into their patient portal securely and pay there and then instead. They'll get a receipt emailed out to them from the payment provider, which in this particular screen is Stripe. And they can take that away and be happy with it. And again, reduces that transactional nature of the relationship, covers your overheads, and also make sure that everything is nice and simple for the patient or the client. Oops, my screen is a bit weird. I apologize. And of course, when you've made any payments through Medesk, they actually appear in a payment history. So you can record things like cash payments as well, card payments. Just record them, and of course anything that's made through the online booking system will be actually taken by that system and then recorded as well. so you get a full proper history of all the ingoings and outgoings of the business. We release new videos every week. Hit that subscribe button to learn how to grow your practice faster.